Yeah, hello. All right, just finishing this setup here. Okay, I think we are live. I think so. Is anyone yet connected that can let me know if everything is looking good, sounding good before I start? Hola, Oscar. Hola, Daniel, Jared, Daniel. Okay, looks like we are live. Cool, so welcome. My name is Pablo Muñoz, and I'm gonna be demoing some stuff and giving you some tricks, some tips, showing you my workflow, a bit of everything really. This is just the more chilled out version of the ZBrush guides tutorials. So thanks to the ZBrushLIVE for hosting this. And so this is the first time I'm doing this in ZBrushLIVE. And so if you know me from my personal channel at Pablanda, what I did is I sort of stopped that so I can concentrate a little bit more on this, since this one has a bigger reach and I can sort of offer a bit more help to more people. Cool, so let me just check. I'm gonna set up here the chat properly. Oh wow, hey everyone. Hey Garik Kodavirdi. Not sure, sorry if I'm pronouncing that in the wrong way. Hola Jose, Diego. Great. All right, so let me know if you guys can hear the fan. It's about 30 something degrees here in Melbourne today, so I have the fan a little bit full on and I can't hear it myself. So if it is a little bit annoying, I can stop it, and then you guys have to put up with my sweat. So let's start with that. And if you guys think it's a little bit too noisy, I can definitely turn it off. Not a problem. Hey Kyle, thanks for having me on board. Peter or Piotr Utas Utinek. Is that how you say it? Viewer? All right, heaps of people on board, so let's get started with this. All right, so I have a couple of sort of like housekeeping things and just a couple of announcements as well that I would like to let you know, especially because it's 1 day and 14 hours away from the deadline. I don't know if you were aware of the pet character contest that me and Marlon are running for this year. And we just partnered up with Wacom, and we're giving away a Wacom Intuos Pro. So it's pretty sweet. Let me just show you that. So if you don't know my work or the type of things that I do, here's the ZBrush Guides website. So here's the contest, and you can win a Wacom Intuos Pro. So here is the deadline. The submission finishes in a day and 14 hours, almost 15 hours. So if you haven't heard about it, you can still, you can rush it, but you can still try to do something. There's some really nice, let's have a look. Some really nice entries already coming in for the pet character contest. Just to clarify, there are 2 hashtags. The one that you use to submit the final artwork is pet contest 2018. The other hashtag is pet character 2018, and that's the one that we've been using to share progress and things like that online before the final submission. So definitely check it out and see if you're interested. It's free to join, pretty chill as well. We like to keep things very chill. So yeah, I just wanted to let you know that that's there, so you can maybe give it a go, or if you're already done your artwork and you're just tuning in, well, good luck. I'm not involved by any means in the judging. Actually, the judging panel are my good friends Leo Krajen, Danielle, James, and Martin. So here we have the judges. So these awesome ZBrush artists, awesome guys, and they're gonna be critiquing and judging your art, which is basically hosting it and helping you develop any further, giving you critiques and things like that. All right. For today, so I thought I didn't have much plan to do. I was in the middle of a big project. So what I think we could do today is the following. So let me bring it up. Okay, oh, hey Ashley, how you going? Glad you can join us. All right, so what I think I'm gonna do, I have this little book. It's not a book, it's like a booklet of sketches that I did a couple of years ago. It's called the Tiny Daily Sketch, where I basically did a sketch for 15 minutes every single day. And this book compiles the 2 years of sketches for like in a more presentable way. So what I think I'm gonna do is just select something from here and just sketch it out or block it out today. And because I'm gonna be, joining the ZBrushLIVE for the whole month and hopefully more than that, we can polish it later on. So just to show you the entire process. So in case you haven't seen it, this is called the Tiny Daily Sketch project, which I have it here for you guys in case you're interested. So if you go to the ZBrushGuides.com, 1 sketch a day, or just Google Tiny Daily Sketch, you'll probably see this. This has all the references, and here is you can get a digital copy or buy the hard copy as well if you want to. So I'm just gonna close that up. Oh, by the way, just to show you that I actually use this as a library of reference, so just to get ideas in case I'm not sure what to do or just want to practice something. So for instance, I took this one from the 8th of April, I think it was 2017 or 16, not sure. And then I took that into ZBrush. This is actually ZBrush Core when I was playing around with this, and then Keyshot for the render. Just to give you an idea of how I use this library of sketches, again, to practice different things. Sometimes I take it a little bit further, like this one. This, for example, this sketch, and you might have seen or might not have seen things like this, like Frankie, this character, and this is also coming from a daily sketch, a really quick doodle. Same thing as the one that you guys probably seen in the banner for ZBrushLIVE, which is this one. So this one the idea came from this Friday the 20th. It was just a tiny little doodle that I did, and then I transform into that. So I thought it was maybe it's like a nice segue to get into the ZBrush guides and just choose something, into the ZBrushLIVE, and just choose something from here, and then we can roll with it. So I had a previous look at something that might be interesting for you guys. I think, where was it? I mean, if you have any suggestions, if you have seen this before and want to let me know, by all means. I think I found one that could be like an interesting creature design, relatively simple, but we can start with that. Yeah, the 28. So this one right here, this character on the right. So what I can do is I'll actually Alright, I'm gonna put that on the other side. And I'm not sure, maybe I should bring it in as a reference image, but I'm just gonna keep it on my second monitor because, yeah, because I think I'm not sure, let me just check. You guys probably can see a chat around here on top of the camera. So that will hide the space. All right. So I'm gonna start with a sphere in symmetry mode. And by the way, I'm also gonna show you a couple of really cool tricks for presentation and rendering later on. Hopefully we can take this guy into a stage that we can present it in a comic style as well. So I have a few custom palettes that I've created in ZBrush, and I like to start with the move brush and the AccuCurve enable, which you can find on the brush. Is it depth curve? Yeah, on the curve, AccuCurve. And what I like to do is just start blocking out the shapes. So I'm going to start with the with the main sort of profile of the jaw for the guy. And again, I use these sketches pretty loosely to just to get ideas, but I don't really copy. I'm gonna turn Dynamesh on just before we continue, and actually turn that down so that the resolution is not that big or that much. So what I was saying is I tend to sort of like branch out and start talking about different things. That's why it's a bit hard to sort of sculpt and talk about at the same time. But what I was saying is that I tend to sketch things on paper or in 2D, digital, and things like that. But I don't sort of commit to that design 100%. I like to keep it a little bit loose so that I can get in ZBrush and actually do some designing as well, not just copying from a 2D design. So I like to, prototype, and I'm very big into the idea of prototyping and MVPs to produce design, like minimum viable product, to see if it works before I commit any of my time to further develop something. All right, so I think something like this, just to start getting the silhouette. And I don't know if you guys have seen some of the work that I've done with brushes. Just go ahead and I'm gonna hold Shift and enable Sculptris Pro. And obviously, because I'm using the Move brush, again, I'm branching out, but this is just a parenthesis. Basically, if I hold Shift, I can access the Sculptris Pro, but because I'm using the Move brush, it doesn't affect anything, or it doesn't activate that Sculptris Pro. So I'm just gonna use that to clear some areas here and then reduce that. All right, so what I was saying before is that I don't know if you guys have seen my work with the brushes or the double action brushes in the ZBrush guides. So those ones are really like kind of like shortcuts or to help you establish some details very quickly. And I know a lot of people think that ZBrush, maybe not you guys because you're more familiar with it, but if you're new to ZBrush, you might think that this is a great software to just add details and that kind of stuff, which is true. I just think that details are pretty much, I don't know, they're just very easy to achieve. I mean, you can take a couple of brushes, customize a couple of things, alphas, and adding, details is pretty easy. Whereas, this is what I spend most of my time, just blocking out the shape, making sure that the silhouette reads nicely and that it works before I even start doing any details. And I'm sure this is what you guys do as well. Just the blockout stage. All right, so I'm gonna take another brush that I really like, which is, I don't have it here, but is the Move Elastic brush. So let's go M Elastic, and this allows you to quickly change things on the fly, really fast. At least the proportions and how the different shapes that you have sort of established relate to each other. All right, so let me just come back to when I use the damp standard brush, and because we have Sculptris Pro enabled, I can very quickly sort of establish the area where the eyes are going to be. Very rough. All right, we'll come back to this in a bit. All right. So nothing really like the sketch. Let me check the sketch and the chat. Oh well. All right, let's see the chat. Check the chat. Hi Silas. Hang on a second. I'll just hide the window. All right. Hi Silas, hi Steven, nice of you to join. ¿Cómo está, loco? Speaking like a true Chilean, I like it. Hi Vic, Vin. All right, so sorry. So here we go. This is the sketch that we sort of like doing, and you see that even the silhouette is nothing like it. again, we can try to get closer to this, but I'm just using as a starting point this. So I'm gonna probably, I'm gonna try to get these planes working really nicely, which at the moment are quite curved, and just try to make this a little bit more of a sharper angle here. I'm definitely wanna keep these sort of, these two areas that, you know, make up the cranium or the skull, and I think the jaw has an interesting angle as well. So definitely I'm gonna try to keep it and make it as close as I can to this sketch, but you know, I'm not gonna limit myself to try to exactly match what I have in here as a reference, because you know, this is the whole point of iterating and sketching and making it happen in ZBrush. That's the whole point, right? So again, like I said, I'm gonna go back to the move brush, keep the AccuCurve on. I'm gonna try to achieve that sort of more pointy angle here, or these planes here at the back. By the way, the material that I'm using at the moment, it's custom material that just for sculpting, and you can get that from the ZBrush guides. It's one of, I cannot remember the name of it, but it's all in there. You can get it from the ZBrush guides. I have a few other materials just like this one to sort of establish the shape, because it helps me. It has a sort of like a center type of specular that allows me to read the volumes for blocking quite well. But any material would do, I mean. Okay. Just gonna make it a bit more narrow and just push the jaw down a bit. And before we continue, let's go ahead and append a sphere. Make sure that is symmetry is enabled, and I'm gonna go ahead and scale that down. And this is going to be, hang on, do we have solo mode? Yep. This is gonna be kind of like the chest. And also for the neck. So we can do that and bring in the mask lasso. All right, so something like that should be okay. I'm just gonna reposition this pivot from the center, the gizmo, reset the rotation, and just push that up. Maybe it's a little bit too long, but doesn't matter. I'm gonna clear that mask, and I'm gonna I'm gonna smooth all this with Sculptris Pro. So I don't know if you knew that, but as you start smoothing with the Sculptris Pro, like so, it kind of like, it tends to shrink everything down. So what you can do instead is hold shift. I'm holding shift right now. Start smoothing this area, but then let go of the shift without letting go of the click, and that sort of inverts the smoothing algorithm, so it kind of like inflates everything. Right, so with this, we can sort of start polishing the neck. All right. This dude is a little bit, you know, on the skinny side here. I like to establish a few landmarks really quickly, even though like I'm not, you know, an expert in anatomy. I also tend to research and do heaps of use heaps of reference before I do any project that really, or character project that really requires anatomical knowledge. All of them do, but you know, something that really is, that you cannot hide it, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. So plus this part of the neck is always what you know, makes me don't want to get into anatomy. It's just a monster. I love it, but this part of the neck, absolutely hate it. But when you get it right, it's kind of like satisfying. So what I like to do, just to show you really quickly, is to use the damn standard brush and just establish, like I said, to like the landmarks, sort of like the clavicle here. Oops, inverted that, holding Alt. Just try to make it like a straight line, and then go back with the move brush and just get that nice sort of S shape Although this is not a humanoid or human character, it's humanoid, but we try to make it as believable as possible. So I'm gonna push that backward a bit. Okay. So that should give us like a good indication of where to keep placing stuff. We're gonna establish that muscle as well. And with the damp standard brush again, we can establish so like how this is going to sort of join the aquarium here. All right. Yeah, I think that's looking good for now. Again, this is the blockout and the sketch. I think this is getting a little bit thicker here towards the top, so we can use. This would be a good example to use one of these deformers. Not deformers. Is it deformers? Modifiers. Deformers. Yeah, deformers. So with the Gizmo 3D, I'm gonna click on the cog icon, and I'm going to go for maybe the taper. And let's try the one at the bottom. So that's interesting. Let's try the one at the top, just to narrow it down. And I want to try to find, keep these lines here a little bit straight, and then I'm gonna scale the jaw a little bit on the side to sort of like break that continuity, at least from the front view. So yeah, that's not too bad. Let's go ahead and accept that. I'm gonna also try, just for kicks, the bend curve, and I'm gonna increase the number. Oops. Hang on a second. What did I? Bend curve? No, I pressed the wrong one. So reset that. The bend curve, this one right here, the second one. So I'm gonna change the axis to be the y-axis with this cone here, the one with the RGB colors. And I have 2 points at the moment, but I'm gonna try to give it some curvature with maybe 6 points. Is that 6? 5 points. Yeah, 5 points. The less points that you add, the better, because it's just easier to manipulate, at least at this stage that we are blocking the shapes. Now let me check the chat 1 second. Cool. Any questions so far? Not using red wax? No way. There is no way I'm gonna use red wax. I have something very similar though here that I use quite a bit, but it's not the red wax. I refuse to use the red wax. Right. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'm gonna try to keep an eye on the chat. Though you guys are pretty active, so yeah, feel free to put it in the chat and I'll check it and I'll try to answer as many as I can as I go. Again, with this modifier or this deformer, I'm gonna try to fix the shape a little bit, maybe just add a little bit of curvature here. So it's really easy to just change proportions. Look at this, scale the whole. You can also pinch and scale that from this point, from these corners or the cones. So that's pretty handy tool. Just make sure that whatever you do while you're still blocking in symmetry, you do it from the side and with perspective of, because if you do this, you will lose the ability to work in symmetry mode. It's also a pretty interesting way to pose your characters as well, if you're going for something very organic. Okay, I think I'm gonna scale this one down a bit. All right, so just wanted to show you that this is another really cool trick to manipulate the blockout stage of your character. I'm gonna accept that, get out of this thing, and I'm gonna go back to the move brush and then just finish up the blockout of this character, and then we start like detailing, well, not detailing, but working on the secondary forms. So I think I lost a little bit of the symmetry here, but that's not a problem. I have the mirror and weld button here that you probably already know, which is on the geometry, subpalette, modify topology, mirror and weld. So that's that. It's all good. All right. So I'm gonna swap to this subtool and tweak this silhouette just a tiny bit more. And now we can take something like the standard brush again, sorry, the damp standard, and I'm gonna establish again some anatomy landmarks and some regions that probably the bone of this alien character, this creature, are sort of like closer to the surface. So those would be the landmarks of this particular character. So anything around the zygomatic arc and the cheekbones. I'm using the Alt key as well, so I'm just pushing instead of pulling. So I'm pulling instead of pushing with the damp standard brush. And this is just very rough. This is basically setting up the sketches or the sketches line for this character, and then we just fill in all these areas. But I'm just trying to figure out how this sort of protrusion here of the skull kind of like works and how it sort of integrates with the rest of the body and the jaw. So at the moment we don't have much of a jaw line, but I guess the mouth of this character is kind of weird. Let me just do something similar to what this guy had. So it's like it splits into 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 parts actually. So we probably need something here sort of to help with the, like just thinking about the functionality of this design. Where does this jaw sort of locks in and things like that. So this is not, so what I'm doing is not necessarily detailing anything. Again, all of these lines probably are gonna be gone pretty soon. I just use them to sort of cut the model into parts that visually I can understand a little bit better and know how to concentrate my sculpting efforts, I guess. So that's pretty much what I'm doing here. All right, you guys have any questions? Thanks, Steven. Glad you like it. All right, so this is like a little bit closer to what I had in here. So just a couple of things that, I want to emphasize, at least with this design here. One is the eyes are kind of like spread apart quite far. So this is a nice area to sort of like avoid too many details, so that we can keep an area of rest and then just concentrate all these wrinkles and those sort of kind of interesting volumes around here. So I want to make sure that this area I keep it clean. Also, I'm going to push the eyes a little bit, and like I said, there is a nice angle here that I still don't have. It's kind of like wobbly, so I want to try to get that one right. And here are the 3 custom pen. Yeah, so here are the 5 sections that this sort of mouth splits into. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we need to figure out how these might work and yeah, all that good stuff. So let's continue with that. Cool. So I'm gonna go to the move brush. I'm just gonna push this back a bit, and here is the area that I need to sort of concentrate on. There's also a pretty cool way to go about fixing these type of things when you're blocking. So I'm gonna switch to the mask pen, and I'm gonna mask out this area, which is the one that we need to sort of concentrate on. Yeah, kind of. I'm gonna embed that mask by clicking outside, and all right, something like that. That should be fine. Maybe a little bit more here. And that should be on both sides. Cool. So now that I have that, actually, I'm gonna turn off symmetry so that this particular trick or method would work better without the symmetry, and then we mirror everything. That's why I'm saying it's a good way to approach it while you're still blocking the shapes in symmetry mode. So I'm gonna invert the mask out this area. So I'm only having this part. And now I'm gonna bring in the gizmo. I'm gonna center it with this location icon. And now we can hold Alt or just click on this lock icon to unlock the gizmo. And what I'll try to do is kind of like establish that angle that I was mentioning around here with this axis, with this line, which is actually the rotation line, but we'll just keep that in mind. So I'm gonna hold Alt again, position that. So this is kind of like the angle that I'm looking for. And now we can just scale it down. All right. So that's a nice way to sort of establish the planes of the head or whatever you're working on. So now we have this nice plane here. Let's go ahead and repeat the same process really quickly. Oops. Switch to the mask lasso. I'm gonna do the same thing here. And then obviously we can polish it a little bit. All right. Center that and scale it. You can even move it a little bit, rotate it. It's a really, really handy way to do it. Okay. Clear the mask, and obviously we stretch the polygons here quite a bit, so we can hold Shift and then just smooth this tiny bit with Sculptris Pro enabled. All right, so now these ones are working, kind of. Looking at the reference, I feel like there is a bigger part, a bigger area here, sort of like how the frontal or the temporal lobe sort of, or the cranium or whatever, sort of like meets this area of bone. So I'm thinking this could be like a hard, solid piece inside the skull, so, or bony. So I think I'm gonna use the clay brush to really quickly accentuate that. Okay, kind of what I wanted, and then just push this in a bit. All right, I think I need to push this a little bit more. All right, and then with the move brush, I'm just gonna tweak this a bit. And because I want to keep working in symmetry, I'm gonna do a quick mirror and weld. All right, so now we can, spend more. Oops. Turn symmetry back on, and we can spend some time just refining those little adjustments that we did. This guy kind of reminds me of the cat. Now that I'm looking at it from the distance, what's the name of the what's the name of that movie? It's a Disney movie. Is it John on Mars or something? Anyway, one of the like skinny dudes that has 4 arms and stuff like that. What are the name? I'm sure you guys know what I'm referring to. It's a green guy as well. They have like long horns, kind of like as a, not Little Stitch. Come on, mate. It's not that one. John on Mars? I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. John Carter. That's the one. Cheers, mate. So yeah, kind of like it has that kind of feel. Might live in that universe. Alrighty, so let's move on along. How are we going with time? Oh, pretty good. Now I'm gonna show you a really nice trick. So I don't know if you've seen the presentation that I did at the summit. I showed you how to kind of like work with radial symmetry in a sphere for the eye, but using the array mesh. So that's something that I use when I'm working on 2 eyes at the same time, just instance those eyes. But there's another way to do it, which is also pretty handy. So let's go ahead and append a sphere 3D. And I'm going to scale this down and just position it. Now the eyes of this creature are pretty small. Let's go for something like that. And then once we establish this and once we set the eyeball where it should be, I think we can safely start adjusting the rest of the face. All right, I think it's maybe a bit forward. Yep. Okay, something like that. So I'm gonna go back to this one, and now we can start repositioning all this a little bit better. So just want to make sure that, although keeping with the design that I originally had, or that I'm sort of using as a reference, I'm trying to solve certain things in terms of the functionality and just making the design a little bit more believable. And the way to do that is basically, or in my opinion, is to try to get him closer, get this character closer to a more humanoid anatomy. Not necessarily specific to the human skeleton and the human muscles and things like that, but this is something that would, if you're doing a character design, is something that would help you or help the viewer or help inform the viewer that this is something that could exist, that it kind of works, even though it could be someone that has no idea about anatomy or nothing to do with characters. It would help them to understand that it's something that could exist. So for example, around the eye, this whole area of the face is kind of like protecting the eye. So if I have this little eye here, I'm going to make sure that around this area, although it's not obviously humanoid or human anatomy, I want to try to keep this as close as that, you know, design of nature, which is just to protect and enclose this eyeball here. All right, so again, I'm gonna go back to the damp standard brush and then just quickly paint some areas, some crevices to see how this thing can work. So I'm thinking maybe instead of going up here, this part could go up and then down, and then it converts, like it transforms into this area here. Okay, let's go ahead and do the same thing. I'm gonna bring in the standard brush, enlarge it a little bit, and just push this just to add a bit of curvature here. Same around here. All right, so starting to look a little bit better. I'm still not convinced about the jaw, but we can work on it. All right, so because we have these 5 sort of pieces that the mouth can open into, I want to figure out how they actually work again. So this section here could also be like, could have some connecting tissue and muscle that are pulled from the top. So that's kind of easy. This one, we can have these risorius and other of these face muscles sort of like pulling from here. Again, we probably won't see this, but I just want to figure out that how this could work. All right, let me check the chat and see if you guys have any questions so far. It's like a little character from the Fifth Element. You mean the Sorg? The Sorg guys? Yeah, I guess. And they have a pretty big jaw. I don't know if that's the one that you're referring to, Mylowski. Okay, go back to the move brush. So I want to finish the block out of this character in the next 10 minutes or so. So we can move on with some more interesting techniques. So far, this is not groundbreaking or anything. Not that I'm going to show anything that is groundbreaking or anything like that, but I probably want to show you a couple of things that are more interesting than just sitting around and watching me do this. Okay, let's look at it from the distance. I'm gonna swap to the other subtool and just gonna do large, kind of like proportional changes here. just to re-evaluate that silhouette a little bit. All right, let's go ahead now, and we're gonna bring in probably the damp standard brush again. So you'll notice that at this stage, I'm limiting my set of brushes quite a bit. So these are the essential brushes that I have. All of these ones are the standard, standard brushes that come with ZBrush. Only these ones here at the bottom are kind of like my customized version of the brushes. But for the most part in this stage is just the standard brush. I only get to play with custom brushes when I start like detailing and going into more details basically. So now with this, I'm just gonna hold Alt and then just start to suggest some kind of like eyelid here. And the same here. So I can also bring in the lasso. Sorry, not the lasso, the mask pen, sorry. Mask an area like that. Maybe go ahead and embed that. Just refine that. And now we can bring in the move brush. And we can play with the placement of this eyelid. So this is the great thing about the Sculptris Pro, right? We can make the size of the brush smaller, clear the mask, and then we can have more resolution here to play with. All right, damp standard brush again. I'm gonna increase the size, so I don't wanna lock in all these tiny details just yet. All right, that's starting to look a little bit more interesting. Now this is something that the design doesn't have, which is like a more prominent nose, but I think these lines that I did here unintentionally kind of suggest an area where I can put some nostrils, maybe, and just start refining the general shapes of this design here a little bit. Now, if I were doing this for a more production environment, I guess we could split all these into little parts, into little subtools, especially this area. And if it's going to be an animatable character, that's a whole new level. We need to figure out other things. So for now, I'm going to keep it obviously just as a concept. So it works for the time being. So I'm going to bring in the clay buildup, increase the size of the brush. And this is just to really quickly build up volumes here. Let me check the chat. All right, you guys good to go? Cool. No questions so far. All right, so I guess let me just fill in some of these areas, like I said, with the clay buildup brush. So now that I have these lines, I can go back in and sort of like fill them in with some muscle or fat, whatever it is. We'll decide that as along the way, but that's kind of what I like to do after establishing the initial landmarks and the guides that I create with the damp standard brush. So this one, I'm gonna exaggerate this indentation a tiny bit more and just try to keep a nice flow around here. And the good thing about using the clay brush, the clay buildup brush at this point, is that because it has the square alpha, it just gives me this sort of striations or lines that sort of help me visually to maintain that that flow that I was mentioning. Although at the end I'm just gonna probably smooth them out and continue from there. But as a general rule, I like to keep them for a while before polishing the mesh. And this is just figuring out this part of the jaw as well. What part is bone, what part is just tendons, and whatever else goes into this character. Okay, so here's the trick that I'm gonna show you with the eye, with the eyeball. So I like to make this eyeball. I'm not sure if I should. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it with the Sculptures Pro enable. Doesn't matter. So yeah, what I want to show you is that you can actually use the radial symmetry as it is. So if I turn the floor on, you'll see I have the perspective off and all that. And the floor is on now. And obviously, if I go into solo mode, the eyeball is nowhere near the center. So if I turn on radial symmetry, so I'll just do it from the default menu so you guys know what I'm doing. So go into the transform palette, activate symmetry, and I'm gonna do it in the Z axis, turn off X, and then activate radial symmetry. So that's it, I have radial symmetry. Now if I just go in here, you'll see that the radial count of the instances of that brush are sort of like spamming from the center of the world, not what I want to sculpt. So if I do this, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna do anything that I want. So one thing you can do is, I still have the radial symmetry, is to go to the transform palette and just click on this S pivot. So the S pivot basically sets the pivot temporarily to that specific subtool. So right now I have this with radial symmetry, which is pretty cool. You can work on this. So this is one of the most useful things that I know about, like in terms of working with radial symmetry. So if I turn solo off, hold on a second, what did I do? Oh, I haven't reset the pivot. So all right, so let's just say that I'm gonna continue sculpting this guy here, and once I finish, I should be able to just clear the pivot, and that will reset that guy to what it was. So again, I'm gonna show you with the transparent mode enabled so you can see what I did there. So again, I have the radial symmetry not working the way that I want to. Go into set pivot, and you'll see that it centers the pivot right here. So it's now in the middle. So let's go ahead and go into solo mode and do whatever else we want to do with this eye. Actually, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna go with the claybuildup brush. Just gonna create a little indentation here for the iris, and also maybe for the pupil as well. All right, how's you guys going? Okay, and then I'm gonna bring in the damn standard brush. And just try to do some design here. Nothing too crazy. Maybe something that we can sort of spread a little bit more into the sclera of the eye. I haven't saved, so let's just do a quick save just in case before I forget. All right. Hopefully that autosave didn't wreck my pivot point. Let's hope it didn't. All right, I'm gonna go for something like that. Maybe even do a couple of lines here just to sharpen this with a smaller brush. And if you want to get a little bit more variation so it doesn't look asymmetrical, you can every now and again change the radial count to add more variety, I guess. But I'm going to leave it like that. Go back out of solo mode, and hopefully it didn't wreck it, but clear the pivot point, and we're back to normal. Great. All right, so we have the eye now. I'm going to get rid of the radial symmetry now. And what I'll do is actually want to rotate this a tiny bit so it's not pointing forward, because human eyes are not anyway. And then just reposition this a little bit better. Okay, so let's get out of perspective so that we can judge a little bit better how this guy is looking us. And just to make the other eye, we can easily go into mirror and weld, and then we have these guys all ready to go. Okay, go back to this subtool, going to move brush, and actually before I do that, let me just check the chat once more. We are almost 1 hour in, so I'm gonna leave the next 20 minutes, half an hour to work on some details, just to sharpen a little bit the design so it looks more interesting, and then I'll show you some rendering techniques with the sketching and the comic materials. So how much resolution I'm using? Hang on a second. So I really did catch the brush you used to carve into the eyes. I was clay. Yeah. So the bigger part, the bigger areas of the indentation of the iris. So this area here, I carved it with the clay buildup. Just push it in, and then all these details is just reducing the size of the brush with the damp standard brush. And because I'm using the Sculpt Pro, it's really easy. But that's all. I just keep 2 brushes to do that. Cool. Glad you like it. How much resolution are you using at the moment? I'm using, well, originally, if this was a Dynamesh, I would be using 128, but I'm using the Sculpt Pro. So at the moment I have, oh, you guys probably don't see it. So here at the bottom, I have the active points and the total points in my screen. So you can see how much resolution I have. But yeah, if I showed you, I'm just working with Sculpt Pro at the moment. Quick question, does radial symmetry work with local symmetry turned on? Could you have that in position and use local symmetry to sculpt? No, I believe it doesn't. Like you cannot have symmetry of 2 radial counts if that's what you're asking for. So like I wouldn't be able to have local symmetry and radial symmetry in these 2 eyes and work on both radially at the same time. Not sure if that's your question, but I don't believe it's possible. Okay, Pablo, if you were planning to do a facial animation with that character in the future, do you model it with the mouth open from the start? No, I would model it halfway in, so like semi-open. So ideally, from what I know about animation, I used to be a 3D animator. So, but that was a long time ago, so things have evolved quite a bit. But my understanding is you want to keep the character, the pose or the T-pose of the character as relaxed as possible, or like in between 2 poses. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So like you could have the T-pose like completely straight, but I believe it's better, for example, if you're doing something more realistic, you could, unless you're using muscle system again, there's so many variants. But just to answer your question specifically, if you leave the mouth open halfway, then you are 50% open and 50% closed. So it's gonna be easier to create the blend shapes and to create the bones if you're doing bones and all those sort of things. But again, they're different variants. So specifically to answer your question, if I were to do this and those are the requirements, I would do it like that. All right. So no more questions. Are you using reference here, or is it? Yeah. I'll show you what I'm doing. So I'm using one of the Tiny Daily sketches. Let me just clear that up. Which are one of the tiny sketches that I did for over 2 years. And they just serve me. I basically created hundreds of little things like this, like thumbnails, and they serve me as a quick library of ideas. But it's available for you guys if you want it as well. All right, so I think we're pretty close to what I wanted. Obviously, there's something here. Hopefully you guys can see it. So this this curvature here is kind of nice. I want to try to replicate that as well. So basically this is a bit more bulky, whereas in this current design is quite flat. So I'm going to try to go for that as well, and let's see if we have plenty of time still. So this area joins in the design, it joins a little bit better, like it looks more integrated with the whole head, whereas here it just looks like something else. So let's go ahead and prototype that a little bit better. All right, so first let's integrate this part, which is kind of annoying me. I'm gonna use the claybuildup brush with a large brush, so it's gonna reduce the polygon count and make it easier to just manipulate. So that's a bit better. Okay. Yeah, I'm a little bit more happy with this. Like so. Now what I'm gonna do is maybe let's use a layer just so that we can go back. So I'm gonna save a new layer, start a new layer, recording in a new layer. And I don't remember if you can use the Sculptris Pro in a new layer actually. Yeah, no, you cannot, because this Sculptris Pro is enabled. Not a big deal. We can go ahead and without the Sculptris Pro, I'm gonna use the move brush without the AccuCurve because I don't wanna make this area pointy, and I'm just gonna push this out just to fit a little bit better with the original design, that this nose or this area of the front of the head or the face is a bit more chubby, a bit more bulky. And who knows, maybe this is sort of like guarding a couple of really big fangs. I don't know. That would be another part of the design out of the scope of this ZBrushLIVE session. By the way, guys, if you want, I mean, feel free to keep asking questions. I'll try to answer them as much as I can. But also, if you have any ideas, or if you actually want me to work on something specifically throughout these sessions, just feel free to tag me in, you know, my social media should be here at the bottom of the camera. So Pablanda, here's the, this is embedded. There you go. So ArtStation, Facebook. Yeah. So anyway, you can tag me on that and say, like, for the next ZBrushLIVE session, go ahead and why don't you try doing this, and I'm happy to do that as well. All right. So I think this looks a tiny bit better. Definitely has more weight, I guess, in the design. Feels more solid. I'm having a little bit of problem with these regions here. Not sure if I'm happy with those, of how they work. So I'm gonna bring in the AccuCurve and try to play with those a bit more so that they have a more sensical shape. I'm gonna go into solo mode as well. See if I can push this here. And also I need to, you know, bring these back as well. I'm gonna turn Sculptris. Oh, I cannot. Can I? Oh yeah, I'm here in a different subtool, so it's not a problem right now. Just trying to figure out how this neck will connect to the actual face, to the actual head. Okay. All right, so now we can go with the layer, and we can turn it down. We can see the difference between what I had and those little changes. I don't know, you might agree with me or not that this looks better. But we can also actually try minus and see what that gives us. It's actually pretty interesting, to be honest. It's a completely different design, but that's kind of like the good thing about working with layers. You can try it and prototype different things. So at 0, I don't know, guys, what you think, but so this is what we had at 0. This is kind of like interesting at -1, but I think I'm gonna go somewhere in between 0 and 1, and I'm just gonna bake that. Cool. I'm just gonna bake it because I want to keep using Sculptris Pro for now. So I'm gonna reduce this polygon count here and work a tiny bit here at the top because we have a couple of protrusions, a couple of areas here that I haven't worked on. So it could be part of the skull as well, but maybe there's some flat muscles that would help with the movement of this whole part here, because it will be kind of weird, especially because, I mean, what I'm thinking is probably not a right assumption or anything, but because if this part is so big and chunky, it makes a big part of the face. It makes sense that it needs a lot of, you know, an anchor point here at the back. So again, thinking about designing, thinking about the functionality of this is always good. One thing I want to do though that I forgot is that the profile looks kind of weird and boring, so I'm gonna fix that jaw a little bit. How are we going with time? Yep, pretty good. Still good with time. How are we going with questions? Is it easy to use than Blender? What is it? I think I missed what you guys are talking about. Okay, so I just tested local symmetry thing and it does work. So as long as you have the eye on the side, as soon as you have both eyes, I use subtool as a whole to generate the radial symmetry. Otherwise it uses one eye to sculpt the details. So the answer is yes and no. That's helpful, mate. Yeah, I think with the radial symmetry thing, you need to always have it in the center. There is no way that I know of to have two radial symmetries, if that makes sense. Like to have the radial count of the brushes in two sides. I know you can have it in the X and the Z axis as well. So that might be something that might be interesting. I'm not sure. Hey, Jamie. Glad you can join us. All right, so I'm just gonna start. I'm not gonna say detailing this, but just refining some of these more secondary shapes, and I'm gonna do that with the help of the damp standard brush, just to sharpen up some of these details before I smooth them. And I guess if this is something or a mechanism that is to open in like 5 different pieces, or when this guy moves the jaw down, this area opens to the side, and the same as the front one, I guess I don't know, probably depending on the skin as well, and depending on the type of skin, it would be an area that would have quite a bit of wrinkles, but it all depends. Okay, I'm gonna do a little bit of work here on the eye as well, just refining these pieces here. Obviously, the eyes is such an important part of any character design that has eyes, because we're naturally drawn to that part of the face. So spending some time on this definitely helps to bring the design to life, even though the rest looks kind of sketchy right now. And I'm gonna bring in the move brush and then just push things in a bit. Okay, I'm gonna do something that is being bothering me for a while. I'm gonna click on this other subtool, and I'm gonna smooth out this center line that I got from the mirror and weld, just to smooth things a bit. And I don't think I'm gonna work on the neck too much, or at least not this time. One thing I want to do though is this is pretty unnatural. This is really weird. So I'm gonna try to connect these two. Like I said, I haven't worked on the neck much. So what I'll do is, with the mask lasso, I'm gonna kind of like establish an area here that I know I can work, on. So I'm gonna basically try to do the connection here. And again, because it's like the jawline or the mentone is so close to the neck, this area could be probably very wrinkly, or a skin that is sort of like folded on itself. So I'm gonna get into solo mode actually, and use the move brush to just push this out, smooth it, and let's bring back the guy. Okay, so that looks a little bit better. Okay, yeah, that was, I think that was something that was bothering me quite a bit. And let's go ahead and push this to the sides as well. All right, I'm gonna clear the mask, reduce the size of my brush, and I'm gonna smooth all this with a bit more resolution so it looks smoother, and we can judge it from, from different angles and all that. All right, so that looks a little bit better. I think when I was creating this guy, the sketch, I was based it on these really weird goats. I think they're called, I might be totally wrong here, but I think they're called Afghan goats, and those are the ones that or fairy goats maybe. Those are the ones that have like really long ears when they're tiny, and I think they clip the ears, and when they grow they become like this devil thing. Actually, let me show you, because it's pretty fun. I'm gonna search on the other side just in case it's not the one that I'm going for. I think it's called fairy. Fairy goats? The Damascus goats. Thanks. That's the one that I'm looking for. See? Ashley probably has lots of those references, right? Of course, Ashley knows about that, of course. All right, so here it is. So they're super cute when they're tiny, but then when they grow up, they're like, I mean, if you're into this sort of thing, it's kind of cute, but they're horrible, all of them, and they're pretty interesting animals actually. So anyway, yeah, Damascus goat. I don't know why I thought Afghan. Maybe I'm thinking about a different creature, different character. Anyway, so this is probably the one that I was using as a reference to create that sketch originally. So there you go. So you can go back and refer to that if you want to make sure things work a little bit more consistent, or you want to make it more realistic, a more realistic sort of character. Alrighty. How you guys with the background noise, by the way? Is it bothering anyone? Because for me it's very loud. Alright, so I'm gonna bring in the damn standard brush really quick, and I'm gonna establish some cuts here for this part of the neck, and just try to do some wrinkles really fast, just suggest some areas. And this is a nice trick to add a little bit of symmetry, if you're working with symmetry, just work on the sides only and try to leave the center area without any work or wrinkles in this case. Or you can do it and then just smooth that out, that part. But basically the idea is that you can still have symmetry on the sides if they're not very visible. And then you go here in the center and then get rid of the symmetry or symmetry mode, and then you can create this type of things, and immediately you have something that looks a bit more interesting, and it kind of looks like you don't have symmetry on, but most of the work was done with symmetry. Background noise is fine, don't hear anything, brilliant. So I might just crank it up a notch because it's boiling in here. All right, so how are we going? Okay, a couple more minutes with this very rough pass of, yeah, let's call it detailing. I wouldn't necessarily call this detailing, but you know, let's call this detailing so that we can move on a little bit faster and actually try to finish something for this stream. Because you guys are like the other streamers. I don't know who else is in here. I think I saw Oscar, definitely Steven, and the queen of weird references, Ashley, is also here. Those guys are amazing. You guys do lots of amazing stuff and so fast. I just tend to, like I said, not only when I'm speaking, I tend to go on a branch, but also when I'm sculpting, I tend to do the same thing and just figure out things along the way. So it takes a while for me to come up with something decent. I want to try to finish this. I want to try to be like you guys, but I probably won't. So it's gonna be a sculpt. All right. Yeah, actually, it's amazing. It's kind of annoying though that she can finish that up in a single session. It's annoying actually. I'll be totally honest. I'm jealous. All right, so I'm gonna bring in the standard brush. Here we go. Just add a little bit of. Okay, I guess, yeah, I don't have the symmetry on. See, this is the things that happen when I start talking about different things and forget what I'm doing. That's all right. We'll just keep on going. And I guess at this point it's good to, you don't have the symmetry on. I'm just gonna quickly do some minus adjustments here for the chest. I don't have the deltoids or any part of the arm in here, so I'm gonna turn on symmetry actually. All right, so I think this is starting to shape a little bit into more of a character creature, or an interesting one. I'm gonna work on the sternum. Let's try to make it. I always have problems as well with naming things, because the thing is, when I studied anatomy, like the full-on anatomy, I learned most of the bones, the connections, insertions, and all that in Spanish. So most of the names, because they come from Latin, they're kind of all right, but the pronunciation is just, you know, completely different. So for me, this is in Spanish, this is the esternón, or sternón. See, like I don't even know how to say it in Spanish anyway. So yeah, so I have a bit of problems with when it comes to naming things, and I think one of the most important things about learning anatomy is to be able to name things. You don't have to name them precisely with the, you know, you don't need to know that this is the sternocleidomastoid or whatever, but you just need to name things. I think, I forgot, there was an artist, actually, I think it was Ryan Kingsley, if I'm not mistaken. He did a really interesting video ages ago about that, about how to how important it is to map out anatomy just by naming the things. So I'll try to find out and show you next stream, because it's pretty useful technique. I absolutely love that approach to it. But anyway, what I was saying is that it's kind of hard to to remember all these names in both languages. So I'll just go with the little long thing here around the neck, the chesty bit here, and that's how I'm gonna approach this. Just keep it very fresh and very simple. All right, just gonna push these shoulders back a bit, or this insertion. And here for the scapula, I don't even have one yet. Let's just do one really quickly so we know how we're gonna connect this. All right, I'm not gonna go into too much detail here. We can certainly tweak all these things later on. Just add a little bit more volume here, and I think because the whole character is sort of elongated, I'm gonna stretch this down a tiny bit more. And all right, let's just finish up this quickly. A couple more minutes, sort of detailing, kind of quote unquote detailing this guy. I haven't added many details here, so I'm gonna bring in the damp standard, and with a smaller size, I'm just gonna turn on polyframe, and just to double check the parts that I haven't add more details like this, and I just, with a even smaller size, I can just smooth out this area. So that I can go back in with some more details later on. I know you can just basically sculpt directly without smoothing anything, but this just gives me a visual understanding on where are the areas that I sort of keep neglecting in terms of the of these characters' details. Okay, so let's go out of solid mode, and I guess we can, let me swap to a different material here that looks more interesting, or even this basic material that I have here, which has that nice, very sharp specular, and that's kind of handy to evaluate the entire volumes a little bit better. But as you can see, guys, this I'm rarely going below this size of the brush to detail, and I won't start detailing properly, you know, with alphas and custom brushes and things like that. Just yet, because the topology the topology is not there yet. So I prefer to just keep these very sketchy, very sort of concepty, sculpt, and then do a retopology of these or a quick remesh. That's about how I go about starting the proper detailing, the proper process of detailing this piece. So for now, I just keep it like that. I'm gonna accentuate this indentation a little bit. We can even just go into the mask pen, mask that area, invert the mask, and just polish that off like that. And then bring the gizmo. I'm gonna center it to the unmask areas and then just push that in. Clear the mask, and then let's try to position the camera like so, and then just smooth that area. So now we have a nice indentation here, and we can do the same thing, for example, with the mouth. But I'm not gonna do that in this video. But you could totally can do that, just to generate the mouth back of this piece. Actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna avoid that. I'll probably do it later on, but because I really want to show you some other tips and tricks for the rendering side of things, and I'm just gonna present or try to present this character in the comic style. All right, so a couple more things here, and I'm gonna finish this and check the chat and see if you guys have any questions so far. So just pop them in there, and I'll check in just a second. Or any questions about the workflow, or anything else that you wanna see or you wanna learn. I'm not saying that I have all the answers, but I'll definitely try. I'm happy to fail trying and see if that's helpful or not. Okay. Just a tiny bit more of details here. Again, I don't want to overdo it with these sort of crevices or wrinkles. I want to keep this frontal part very clean. In fact, I'm just gonna scale it like that a bit. And maybe with the one last pass with the standard brush and a smaller size, just to sort of get this curvature, these indentations a bit more defined. It's really hot in here. I don't know how. I think the Australian Open is currently on. I don't know. You guys follow the tennis. I really don't know how those guys play with this weather. It's unbearable. Sometimes I think last year it came to I think 42 or 43 degrees in the shade. So it was pretty crazy. You could boil an egg. You can fry an egg. Pretty hot. All right, let me just check the chat, and we still have plenty of time to do the render, so that'll be good. I'm gonna turn off Sculptors Pro mode just to because this allows me to do this a little bit faster, just to refine the volumes a bit with the standard brush. And obviously it won't change the amount of resolution that I have established with the smooth brush when we did that sort of pass that I show you. Ooh, quick save. I've only saved twice today. All right, let me just check the chat, and we can move on a little bit with the rendering side of things. No, this is not happening. All right, I'm gonna wait and then just pray to the Pixologic gods. All right. So what do you guys want to do now? I'm gonna answer questions. Yes. All right. Yes. Quick save. Do not touch the screen. That was my bad. I just clicked somewhere in the screen when I was saving. Ooh, I sweat a little bit extra. Not just the weather is crazy right now. Ooh, fun times, good times. All right. So let's see what you guys want to know. I'm gonna check the chat. It's a lot of activity. The scapula, who needs it? Nobody needs it. Looking good. Thanks, guys. Facebook lags a lot. Not sure what that is. So Pixology trivia question, but is there any guide how to start ZBrush from the basic to advanced stuff? Yeah, definitely. Michael's stuff is awesome, top notch there. I mean, if you want to do a whole series from start to beginning, sorry, I do have. If you want to start with ZBrush Core, I do a couple of series. I have a couple of series on the website, on the ZBrush guides, and that just walks you through the. It's just an introduction to ZBrush ultimately, because that's what ZBrush Core is. You can do that as well. The C Classroom. Boost the AC. Well, I don't have the air conditioning here in the room, so I have it in the lounge room, and I don't think it's the right place to do this. So I'm here boiling. Cool. No question. No questions here. All good. All right. So since ZBrush didn't crash or it was saved. To be honest, it was a user error. Like, you shouldn't touch the screen, or you shouldn't click anywhere when you're saving currently. So my bad. But fortunately, nothing happens. We are still working on this. So one thing I like to do is just maybe work a little bit on the mouth, but I don't think I have enough time to just polish this the way that I wanted. Again, we can continue with this next stream, no problem. What I'll do is use the inflate brush to just bring all these things together a little bit more, a little bit closer. Very subtle, but it really helps. Okay, and same thing here for the eye, maybe. All right, so that's kind of looking good. Let me bring in the original design, so you see that I just use it as a reference point. It's nothing. Yeah, so kind of like the original design has a little bit more of a space here, which is kind of nice. And the mouth is sort of like more concentrated towards the center, sort of like pinched in, which we could do that, but I think it's working fine. Also the jaw, the mentone is a bit more pushed down, and these things feel a little bit thicker. But for the most part, it's there. Also this area is more well defined. And it has all these extra things, but I guess that would be part of the texture or the design on this character. All these dots here. And that's something that we could do with poly paint at a later date. I just want to show you how I would render this for a comic, or how I would render it for just getting the outlines and then continue that in Photoshop. Cool. So Pablo Muñoz, do you speak Spanish? No, what's happening? Wait. All right, this is the second time. Again, I touched it. I need to change the preferences a bit. All right. Thanks, Pro 4210. Glad you like it. I think it feels better now that you made the face more thin. Yep, appreciate it. I think, yeah, it still feels pretty close to those designs that we were talking about earlier on from John Carter and what was the other one? Lilo and Stitch. I haven't seen that, but yeah. Whew. All right, so the problem is that this thing keeps happening. So I'm gonna go to quick save, and I'm just gonna increase the maximum duration so it doesn't happen, because that one was unintentional. I just clicked on it without noticing that started. So yeah, welcome to ZBrush. Tell me about it. I've been suffering from this for years now, but the good thing, the other side of the coin, is that if you just leave it, there's a 90% chance that it will recover if it's just like a user error thing. So we're good to go. All right, so we have a couple of ways that we can approach the rendering of this guy. So what I'll do is I saved already. I'm gonna go and minimize the tool palette, and I'm gonna bring in the render palette, minimize that, and I'm gonna bring the material palette, because if I put it on the other side, you guys won't be able to see what I'm doing. Yeah. So sorry, I was talking about something and got carried away with something else. So who was? Ares López. Sí, hablo español. Correcto, hablo español. Yo soy de Colombia originalmente. Viví mucho tiempo en Costa Rica y ahora en Melbourne. So yes, I do speak Spanish. Cool. All right. So here we go. So there's a couple ways that we can approach it. Like anything in ZBrush, there's plenty of ways that you can do that. I have here, or here in my custom UI, I have a custom material that is called the Pablander Super Comic material. So if I click on this, you already can see, you can already have some, before I do that, let me just change the background color. I'm gonna turn off the flow. So straight away, if I turn this shader on, you can see that you can get some pretty decent, you know, line work. So if you're interested in this material, this is the material that you will get. So I'll walk you step by step on how to build this specific material, and you can also download it as a resource in the comic style render material. And that is the one that I use for, let me just end of the journey. ZBrush. So this guy here. Yeah, so this guy here, I render it with this comic material. And then I just did the paint afterwards, but all the line work is from ZBrush. It's a ZBrush render ultimately. So here I'm just gonna show you. So what's the name? ZBrush. It's called ZBrush Comic Style Render. So if you just type that in, so that would be. Yep, that would be this. So you can download the PDF, and also I did a collaboration with Michael Pavlovich. So he basically took that ebook and converted the whole process into a series of very clear step-by-step tutorial. And he also puts all his amazing skills and knowledge into it. So it's a bundle of it. So you can go here to the ZBrush guides / comic-illustration comic ZBrushGuides.com/comic-illustration-ZBrush/ and then you'll find it here. It's free, you can download it, and it basically takes you from this point all the way to here and how to create the material. And also here is the embedded. This is Michael, and he went through the whole PDF and he created, you know, he basically built it and walked you through the entire PDF that I created. But here you have, you know, a whole bunch of different tips and tricks on how to convert these things into this type of thing. So definitely go and check it out if you want. You can also download new materials that I created. This is one of the new ones that is a little bit more polished. Again, that's up there for grabs. So one thing that you'll notice, especially with this render or this preview, is that it's pretty pixelated at some points. And that has to do with a couple of things. First, we've been using the Sculptris Pro. So there's going to be a lot of faceted polygons, but that's not a big deal. And second, the size of the document. So if I go to document and check on half, you'll see that it looks way more polished than that. Actually, I have it here. I don't know why I did that. So this is, I'm working in full size, and if I press the half, the anti-alias in half, it looks way more polished. So if I go back to the matcap, you'll see that it's not very detailed. It's just, you know, rough out where the wrinkles and some details might be, but it doesn't have to be super precise, right? So you can just, you know, do a little bit of detailing, and straight away you can get something that is fairly decent for an outline. Now there are some parts that you cannot see. I'm gonna go back because I want to show you how to build a couple of ways to build this material really quickly. This is just a more advanced material, and when I say advanced, I don't mean like it's super crazy complicated. It just has more ways that you can tweak it. So for example, it has four of these shaders. So if I turn this one on, you also have this, you know, dark shadows, and you can totally customize all of these ones. You can change the outline, the thickness. So that's what I mean by more advanced it's not more complicated. It just gives you more control. That's what I mean by advanced. But there's a couple more ways to do it really easy, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So I'm going to go back to the madcap gray, and one way that you can approach it is, I don't know if you have ZBrush open with you, but if you want to follow along, feel free to do so. We have 20 minutes, so I'm going to show you these two techniques and then just the final one, and an extra tip that I think is really valuable, that I haven't mentioned anywhere in the comic style render guide, because it's something that I discovered playing around with it maybe a few months after, or almost like a year after. So I'm gonna, if you're following along, I'm gonna change the material here to this flat sketch 01. Okay, so that gives you something already pretty interesting, and I guess this one will work nicely as a cavity map. So you can see with this material it looks quite detailed, although it's not. So here's what we can do. So we can go to the modifiers of this flat sketch 1, and to get rid of that gray color, we can push the opacity all the way to 100. Oh, not, sorry, that's not what I meant. Sorry, to view the full black and white color, you can put it all the way to 100. And to get rid of that gray, that should be, yeah, with the intensity 8. So I'm gonna push intensity 8 up, and you can start seeing how you can tweak that material really quickly. So that looks kind of good. And also you can play with the, let's leave the cavity detection to 1, and you can also play with the cavity transition. So at minus 0.1 or 0.11, it looks like that, pretty interesting, but we can just do a little bit more if you want to grab more of those details. I don't know, sometimes even having less resolution helps you to achieve, I don't know, like extra details that you weren't thinking of. So for example, if you look here at the top, this is all because of the amount of resolution that I have. So if I turn polyframe on, you'll see this is how it looks here. But from the distance, it kind of looks like a bit of a, I don't know, like a scales or extra wrinkles. So, you know, it might be something that you can, yeah, you can develop later on. So what I'm trying to say is that not only the sculpting process is about the design, you can just completely change it and generate and keep iterating stuff when you're playing with the materials as well. All right, let me just check the chat before I continue. Are you gonna add some cool poly paint? Yeah, I'll definitely can take this design a little bit further if you guys want to in the next stream. Chimichanga. Ciao, Pamela. Ciao. Well, I guess that's the Italian way of saying hi. What's up? Is the line art madcap free? It is. You can get it from the ZBrush guides and the material library. It should be there, and it also comes with the resources from the comic style render ebook. So you think to make future torrent for low polygon characters for games and movies? Not sure what you mean. All right, so let's keep going because I want to show you the other tip that I have for you. So yeah, we can play with this cavity transition a little bit more, inverted as well, so you can get that outline like that. So this is a good way that you can, you can render 2 passes. So you can go for 0.005, and that gives you a nice looking outline. Here you can see that the other subtools are more visible in terms of the grayness of the gray that it has in there. But once you do the render, that should disappear as well. So you can do one render like this and export just the outline of the character, and then just change the cavity transition to minus whatever you want, and then export this one and then just multiply them in Photoshop. So that's pretty easy. I want to keep this very subtle. and I'm gonna go in the minus, so I don't care about the outline just yet, because I'm gonna show you a really cool trick for that. All right, so I think this looks all right. Obviously, you can polish this and smooth things so that they look better. And if you want to add, once you have this character in this view or with this material, you can come back with a damp standard brush, reduce it, turn on the Sculptris Pro, and you can sort of accentuate some areas, and you'll see how they will translate in the comic material. So definitely you can just go back and just change the indentations a little bit. Just be aware that if you go back to this material, to the basic one, you will probably exaggerate this quite a bit. So just be aware of that, but totally doable. I think I'm just gonna leave it like that. So that's a really quick way to achieve this kind of look. Now another thing that you can do is, let's go to the skin shader, right? And we can go to the render palette. That's why I put it in here. And in the render palette we have, that's not the render palette. In the render palette we have these render properties. Just expand that, and we have this posterize effect. So that should give us, you know, something closer to like a shaded toon outline. And you can play around with that, and the exponent, this should be 3 by default. So this is just the skin shader, nothing weird there. But you can play with this 3D posterize, and that's something else that you can do. Also, you can combine the two, I guess. You can just select the flat material and then just work, play around with this slider to change it a little bit. I don't think that's gonna make a huge difference in this case. No, it doesn't do much with this material. All right, so we have about 15 minutes left, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you something else. I'm gonna do a quick save. I'm not gonna touch anything, and I'm gonna check the chat as well. Do you prefer polypaint over texturing software? I do not prefer texturing over polypaint, or vice versa. It's just depending on what I'm doing. I'm all about, you know, creating things in the most efficient possible way. So there are projects that would definitely be much better to go through Substance Painter, for instance, and it gives you like a slightly, you know, much more realistic effect actually, because you can paint all the different channels. But for something like this, you just want to present a concept. Polypaint is a fantastic tool. It's so powerful that you can even paint polypaint with HD, which is super detailed. So I do not prefer one over the other. It's just depending on the project really, and that is my approach to most things. So whatever works for that task. So ZBrush and all the softwares that I use are just tools. Yeah, so it's whatever tool feels better or feels best for that, fit that particular need. So you usually render in ZBrush or other software. So I use mostly ZBrush, BPR, not mostly really. I use Keyshot quite a bit as well, since it's so easy to just like enable Keyshot and hold on a second, enable Keyshot here, and then just send that to the Keyshot software. I also use Arnold and Maya, Marmoset. Again, it's all depending on the type of creature, character, or project that I'm working on, and depending on the style as well. So it is very depending on the project. But a quick render, ZBrush has a fantastic way to display this character if I'm working just on this. Gostei do Alien, muito boa, muito obrigado. Muito obrigado, cara. Now, hi, hey, how you going? Party 1. Converted to 2D. Awesome, thanks. Have the same mentality too. Cool. All right, so here is the other thing that I wanted to show you. Let's go ahead and, so where am I? So tool, and I'm gonna do it just for the head, but this is something that would have to be done for all of the subtools. And you know what? because I already saved, I'm just gonna merge visible and just create a single subtool out of the three subtools. So a new tool basically with all the subtools merged. So let's just take all of the ones that I have here on the merge tab, click on merge visible, and ZBrush will create a new tool with this guy here. Now the trick is, it's not really a trick, but it's something that I found quite useful, almost as a mistake, and those are the best tricks. Yeah, so I'm gonna duplicate that guy. So now I have two of the same. I'm gonna go into solo mode, so I'm just looking at the second one, and you can rename that as outline, so you know which one is which. And I'm gonna go ahead, and the flat material might be good, and I'm just gonna go and select a black color. And this is also a really nice way to judge the silhouette, I guess. Yeah, all right. Again, that doesn't have anything to do with what I was explaining. So again, select the outline, select a black color, and then I'm gonna select mRGB, and that way we can apply the flat material that we're using as a sketch and this color to only the outline. And I'm gonna click fill object. All these tools are within the colors palette here, so you just select that and then go fill object, and here in the draw palette you should be able to choose mRGB. Cool. So now let me just check. I'm gonna switch to another material. All good, didn't change. Go back to this one, into white color. Let me just select back the flat sketch, and what I'll do as well for this one at the top is turn on material. I'm not interested in the color, although it might be good. So let's just go ahead and material and RGB as well, white, and fill object. That's it. So I can now change materials and nothing is going to change because we have assigned the flat sketch to both of these subtools, just that the second one is going to be flat black. Now here is the trick. So if I go into solo mode, so now I'm in solo mode, I guess it's going to be hard for you to see it like this. Anyway, I'm sure you're going to get the gist of it. So I'm going to go out of solo mode. So now we should be able to see both of these characters of these subtools at the same time. And I'm going to go to the deformation palette. Leave that open. And here I have the shortcuts for double and flip, and that's under display properties. So you can go to display properties here. And double just means that you can see inside and outside of the, like both normals of the polygons, the inside and outside. So what I'll do is I'm going to flip this. And right now what is happening, if I go into solo mode, you will be able to see it. But what's happening is that you can only see the inside of the model, right? So I just flipped the normals of that secondary outline mesh. I don't want to keep the double-sided, because if I do double, I will be able to see both sides. So I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to keep that looking just inside the model. And now what I'm going to do is go into the deformation palette. I'm going to take the inflate slider, and normally you would inflate the entire mesh, or like you will push the inflate slider to the right to inflate the entire mesh, but because we flipped the normals, we need to do it inside, or like inwards. So let's go ahead and do that, and then you'll see how very slowly, ooh, you can determine the thickness of this line very easily, because we basically is scaling up the same version of the model, or inflating the same version of the model, but we won't be able to see the outside. I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but now we have this outline that we can see from all the points. And obviously we have some areas that, you know, they don't look as polished, like this point here, but because this is an actual mesh, we can take the Sculptris Pro. I'm going to enable symmetry, and I'm just going to smooth out these areas. Boom, easy. So I'm essentially kind of like erasing or polishing just the outline. So for example, for the eye, I'm not interested in these thick islands here. So it's like super useful. Okay, we have 5 more minutes. I'm going to try to clarify this process again in case you didn't understand what I did, because I think I skipped a step that is more, it's better for explanation. So I'm gonna clarify it with another tool. But that's pretty much it, man. It's just like you can have two sculpts. One is slightly bigger and inverted, and then you have this outline. So there you go. And if I go into half, it looks way more polished. Let me bring in the design here, the reference. Let's clean that out. All right, I think Kyle is gonna kick me out soon, so I have 5 more minutes, and I'll show you this process again really quickly. Let's have a look. Yeah, so here you have, this is the original sketch. Obviously has more details, but you know, for the most part, it has that thick outline that I do on this type of sketches as well with that technique. Let me check the chat. Cool, very useful, thanks, no worries, glad you like it. Valeu, Pablo, I'm going to record your tutorial to study. I think it's recorded. So you don't have to record this current one. The Pixology guys will put it in their channel, so you can just rewatch it as many times as you want. Whoops, I haven't touched it. I have a big buffer until Oscar starts. All right, I'm just gonna let Oscar kick me out then. All good. All right. So I just want to show you this trick again in simple terms, so you can see really what is going on, because I think I skipped that part. But yeah, you can just export this as a high-res image and use it as an outline and work from there. So here it is, the trick again. In just simple, I'm going to simplify the steps, and I'm going to use a cylinder 3D. Just to make it easier. All right, so I'm going to turn that into Polymesh 3D, divide that a couple of times, and delete lower. So very simple cylinder. So go to the subtool, and I'm going to duplicate it. All right. So now I have the two. I'm going to select the second one. This is exactly the same thing. I'm not even in solo mode, and I'm going to rename that. I'm going to call it outline. Yeah, I'm going to use the entire day. All right. So we have the outline here, and I'm going to go into solo mode, and I'm going to flip, or let me just show you here. Display properties, I'm going to flip these polygon normals. So now you can only see inside of this polygon, right? So if you can make the outline different colors. So I'm going to go into skin shade and go for a green outline, for example. And I'm going to fill that object. So now you can see there's no way to see the front of the mesh no matter what I do. I'm just looking inside of it. Right, and that's because I flipped the normals. If you want to go back, you can just flip it again. And now this is the normal way to, you know, the inverted way to see the polymesh or the model. So I'm gonna flip it back on, and that's what we got. And now go into solo mode, select the other cylinder, the one that doesn't have the outline, and I'm gonna go for a yellow, bright yellow color, fill that object. So now we have these two living in the same space. Okay, so now what I did with the alien was I selected the second one, the outline, and I just used the deformation slider here in the inflate, and I just pushed it down. So you'll see I'm just basically scaling the other mesh, but because we can only see the inside, it's like this is sort of casing the other model that has all the details. Hopefully that makes sense and it's easier to understand it this way. So I'm just gonna undo that and do it more subtle. Obviously this inflate slider, what allows it to do is set the thickness of that model. And because the alien, this one here, the color of the outline is flat flat black and there's no shading in the material, it reads as a flat out outline. Whereas in this case, we are using the skin shade and you can almost see things around. But that's pretty much it. We have this green outline, but we can turn it into a black outline, just like that. And this is something that I haven't tried, but I just thought about it. It might be a good idea. I don't know if it's gonna work, but you could potentially merge these two together. So yeah, that's cool. So you can merge them together and keep both with the same sort of properties that we had before. And then we can go with the move brush, for example, and then just work like that. Obviously, in this case, you might have to be extra careful. But again, because we just merged two different polygroups, we can easily auto group this, and we can isolate it. Then we can mask that, bring back the other one, and we can just push and just make the outlines in one area thicker. Interesting. So that, yeah, there you go. That's another thing that can work really nicely. All right, so I think that's pretty much all I have for you guys. Let me go back to my alien thingy. Go into the half mode so I can show you what we did this stream. So let me see, because I don't know if you guys are, what part of the screen is being hidden. You know what? I'm gonna toggle this document. Yes, I'm gonna clear that, drag it back in, and let's go to half. There you go. So now we have this guy, and we can do a snapshot and then bring it here as well. I'm just gonna smooth out this outline here. All right, so there you have it. That's a quick way to sketch out something, sketch out an idea, and then bring it into this sort of stage where you can either export it and do some quick paint over in Photoshop. You can also do it in with polypaint here in ZBrush, and also, you know, take advantage of the 3D-ness of it as well, I guess. But that's pretty much it. I'm gonna just quickly check the chat in case you have one last minute questions, and otherwise we'll wrap it up here. I don't know, guys, what you thought about it. If you kind of like want to see this type of content, if you want to change things. I think the video and the audio are working all right. The weather, I cannot do anything about the weather and me sweating ass off here, but you know, for the most part, I think it's good. I did enjoy it, and thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. And I'm hoping that the little tricks and tutorial side of this stream was useful for you guys. You're very welcome. Great, thanks, cool, awesomeness. I'm going to try this. Always love the render composite to this. Fantastic. All right, thank you very much, guys, and appreciate you tuning in. If you have any other questions or any ideas for the next stream next week, feel free to tag me, like I said, below in the camera thing. You have you can use @Pablo for any of those social media, and I should be able to get your responses or questions if you have. Otherwise, we'll leave it here. Cheers. I'll see you next week.